Hello and welcome to the Empowered Expat Wife Podcast. If you moved abroad following your significant other and are looking to create a fulfilled life on your terms there, this is the place to be. I'm your host, Camilla Quintana, and I'm so excited to be on this journey with you and to inspire you to create the kind of life abroad you truly deserve. We all know what a burnout is, but have you heard of the word Boreout? It's a disorder caused by chronic mental underload that leads to a persistent lack of motivation and interest, to frustration, lethargy, and in some cases even depression. Now, I've researched Boreout, and most literature I've found is related to Boreout in the workplace. But in fact, it can affect many different people in different areas of life, and I see this syndrome in some of my clients who are expat wives. If this rings a bell for you or you know someone who fits the description, stay tuned because I'm going to take all the scientific research and make it relevant to you. Now, the reason that this widespread phenomenon isn't really talked about as much as it should be is, I believe, because Boreout symptoms can easily be viewed as desirable first world problems, like not having a lot of stress, which we all know is so bad for our health, having enough spare time to Google every and anything, being able to watch your favorite TV shows and taking naps in the middle of the day. Who would say no to that, right? Would others pity you for that? Probably not. Well, as I'm about to show you, when this becomes the rule and you feel under-challenged on a daily basis, it's so deeply unsatisfying it can eat you up from the inside. And as a matter of fact, in some literature, the syndrome is described as a soul infarct because that's what it can feel like to those affected. So let's look at what exactly is the problem here. I think it has to do with our self-worth. You see, the self-worth theory, which is a psychological concept, suggests that it's an innate human need to be seen as capable, competent, and able by ourselves and by others. So, our own sense of worth is a direct result of our perceived ability to achieve certain things and to our performance. But when there's nothing for us to achieve, really, nothing that challenges us and that makes us feel proud of what we've done or gets us praise for that from others around us, which is always really nice, right? Then our sense of worth can begin to crumble. And this is something that will affect other areas in your life as well. So how can we spot Boreout in ourselves or in someone else? As I mentioned before, Boreout is most commonly found in office jobs. Oftentimes, employees enter the workplace with a high motivation, but then find that either their tasks don't really fit their expectations and aren't enjoyable to them, or they may be stuck in an environment where their superiors don't delegate. They may be controlling and only pass on boring tasks to them. Soon, they'll find that their motivation decreases, but at the same time, they'll feel badly about not having enough work, which is so difficult to admit and to communicate to your superiors because A, it could make your position seem redundant, or you as an employee, and B, you may be given even more of those boring tasks that you already loathe. So, Boreout affected employees typically develop a series of strategies to pretend to be busy, always having a work-related tab open when they're actually Googling their next vacation, eating lunch at their desk, acting like they are very busy indeed, taking files home with them in the evening, or making personal calls sound like they could be work-related. And in the case of the woman who's giving up life as she knew it, her job, her social circle, etc., to move abroad for her significant other, she easily and commonly finds herself in a situation where either she's unable to work because of visa restrictions, language barrier, and the likes, or she may have to take a job that doesn't actually suit her qualifications and interests out of a sheer lack of options. Or she may not work at all, but at the same time find it difficult to fill her days with meaningful pastimes and activities, as well as lacking social connections in her new place. Or else she may stay at home and take care of the family, which is such a beautiful and important thing to do. However, I think there are some people who just naturally enjoy things like, cooking and playing and all of that, and others who don't really. And that doesn't make them a bad mother. It just means that they will have to fill up their needs and their own bucket in a different way. So no matter what your situation is, it's normal to feel bored and under-challenged from time to time. But if you feel a deep lack of satisfaction in the activities you do all day and find it increasingly hard to motivate yourself, to get yourself to do anything, you may be suffering from Boreout. And I want to give you the name of what it is that you're experiencing, because when you suffer from Boreout, you feel terrible about yourself. You're losing faith in your own abilities. You're losing hope to find something meaningful for you out there. You may come to think of yourself as lazy and feel ashamed about that. And your frustration won't stop there. It will definitely, bleed into your relationships and create some unhealthy patterns. So now I wanted to have a look at what favors Boreout, what feeds this Boreout monster. For one, it's digitalization. It has brought us so many pleasurable distractions for sure. I mean, from social media to YouTube, Google, Netflix, Pinterest, there's always something to do on the internet. And it's easy to convince yourself that what you're doing is really important and really enjoyable. Who would complain about having time for that, right? So you might feel that you should be grateful about this and that others wouldn't understand if you told them that it wasn't enough, that it wasn't filling you up, and that there was nothing really challenging for you to do there. So you stay quiet, you feel ashamed about the feelings you're having, and as a result get even more stuck in a vicious cycle of not feeling fulfilled, but at the same time wanting to pretend that you are. And then thirdly, another thing that favors Boreout is lack of integrity. So scientific studies have actually suggested that at the workplace, a lack of integrity and identification with the company puts employees at a greater risk to suffer from Boreout. And when you live in a different country, and especially if you're only there for a temporary assignment, and so your stay is limited to a few years, you may experiencing the same type of disidentification with that country. That can make you think something like, why bother look for friends or for a job or a class? I'll be gone in a few years anyway, and besides, I don't really think I'd find anything exciting to do around here. So, now that we've analyzed the Boreout syndrome from different angles, the question remains, what can we do about it? So let me give you a few steps to get you started and to hopefully really help you. Step number 1 is self-awareness and compassion. As always, this is always where we start. You need to become aware of the fact that the symptoms you're having are indeed a condition. And I think being able to give it a name, Boreout, can grant tremendous relief. We put so much pressure on ourselves to function, right? And there's often some shame associated with recognizing that we aren't well. And yet this step, this recognition and understanding is so important for you to be able to heal. So please really be kind with yourself here. We all go through hard times in our lives eventually. We all have periods of times where we aren't at our best. And moving abroad can invite many challenges that aren't easily dealt with. So there's really nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with you. Please know that. And now that you know about the existence and the symptoms of Boreout, you have the language to communicate this to your partner, for instance, and to others so that they may better understand what you're going through. This is a real thing. And I want to add here that in my experience, working with clients who are suffering from Boreout or Boreout symptoms, they tend to feel guilty because they're seemingly living a good life with some privileges and perks. Their partner often encourages them to just enjoy themselves now that they can, do some nice leisure and social activities that may fill up your calendar. But there is one very important element missing, and that's the reason why you're feeling so bad. That's the reason you feel useless and unsatisfied. It's that these activities that you may be doing do not grant you a sense of meaning, impact, and perceived accomplishment. Meaning, impact, and accomplishment. These are just 3 things we need in our lives to avoid emptiness. So no matter how full your calendar is, no matter how full of distractions or privileges even your life is, if you don't feel like your actions mean something and they don't really move anything or anyone, and you don't feel proud of yourself from time to time at least for what you have achieved, no matter how big or small that is, by the way, that's when Boreout and depression can creep in. So step number 2 is to take responsibility. While you may not be able to change the main circumstances that contributed to your Boreout, be it the fact that your boss doesn't like to delegate, or the fact that your spouse got relocated, or that you had to move to his home country in order to be with him. Either way, you can focus on what is in your circle of influence and then take full responsibility for that. What is it that you actually have control over? If you think about it, you'll come up with a lot of things. You'll also be required to parent yourself, something completely underestimated and yet so important. I want to encourage you to really rethink what your personal goals are in life, and then think about what it will take for you to get there, to embody the kind of person you want to be. What would she do? What wouldn't she do? Just take really good care of yourself right now. Find a good balance between doing things that you have to do and things that you like to do, even if it's on the side. And also schedule your time carefully. Evaluate the things you do in a day as if you were your own child that needed your help with this. Put some systems in place that will make it easier for you to stop being unproductive or bored. For instance, you could limit your screen time. Social media, Netflix, Pinterest, whatever it is that keeps you on your phone or your computer. Limit it to certain hours and increase times that you spend in nature with other people, ideally friends that make you feel loved and supported, or doing something intellectually stimulating, like taking a course or reading a book. You could also do household chores in bulk. So on certain days and times, such as, bulk buying, batch cooking, meal prepping. They have some great videos about that on YouTube. So when you do that, you'll have more time to plan, and really do plan this, please, to plan things that you enjoy more and that give you more meaning in life. And also, tell a loved one about what it is you're going through and ask them to not only support you, but also to be an accountability partner for you and to check in with you and see how you're doing and what you're doing. I can also only recommend you to get a good coach whose specialty it is to help you with these kind of things exactly. Coaching is so powerful because it brings actual tangible results, and quite quickly. And I see that with my clients all the time, but I also see it thanks to working with a couple of brilliant coaches myself that help me tap into my full potential and show up as the best version of myself. And I actually offer a free 1-hour Boreout consultation on my website, specifically for people who identify with this condition, with this podcast episode. So I'm happy to dive into more detail with you on how to overcome it. And as a third step, I want to encourage you to actively look for meaning and purpose. As you know by now, meaning and purpose are the fourth of my 4 pillars of a fulfilled life abroad framework. And they aren't something you need to look for on the outside, but that are actually created inside of you. By getting clear on what truly brings you joy in life, what your unique skills and your values are, what impact you would like to make in the world, and how you would like to be remembered. Another well-known coaching question you can ask yourself here is, if time and money weren't an issue, what would I be doing? And please feel free to just get your journal out, get a notepad out, open a voice note on your phone or whatever, and just start reflecting on that, start journaling on that, start thinking about that. And I'm sure that you'll come up with many things that are food for inspiration. And even if you determine that your current circumstances make carrying out that new activity or that new goal, that new meaning-providing goal that you found difficult, then you can still ask yourself, so what meaning-providing elements of that goal could I do right now? Just take that ideal goal that you found and describe what it is about, what your tasks would be, what your feelings would be about it, what your motivation behind it would be, and so forth. And then think about how you can recreate these elements, these smaller parts of the big ideal goal in your daily life. And if you need help with this, download my free guide, 5 Powerful Self-Coaching Tools for a Fulfilled Life Abroad, where you'll find a similar exercise, or maybe you've already done it. Now, I'll put the link in the podcast notes, and you can also find it in the free resources section on my website. And one last thing, make sure to actively look for activities that will actually stimulate your intellect, because that is exactly what's needed to overcome Boreout. So if you think that you might be suffering from Boreout and would like to chat, you can always reach out to me. As I said, I have this free consultation that you can find on my website and in my calendar. And for further reading, please refer to an article I published with the magazine Expat Living, or a blog post I wrote about this on my website. And also, if you identify with these symptoms, you have a lot to look forward to, because the next episodes of my podcast will revolve around how to find purpose in your life and how to make your professional dreams come true or figure out what they are. I'm going to be interviewing some amazing experts on all of these topics, and I cannot wait to share this with you. So tune in, and until then, take good care of yourself, and I'll be back with you soon. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to share this episode with your expat besties and show me some love in the reviews. Want more juicy content designed for expat wives? Then head over to my website, www.camillakintana.com, or follow me on Instagram and Facebook at coach.camillaquintana.